Thank you, Laura. Happy Sunday, and thank you for showing up for yourself and for one another again. I was pondering this morning whether God delights in us showing up for each other too. I invite you now to take some deep breaths, to let yourself arrive a little more fully, so we can all tune in to whatever word God has for us today. Gracious God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. She let herself have as long as she needed. As many wave rides, as many sunsets, as many sunrises, as many moments as she could take in, given her heartache. In the summer of 2018, over my time of sabbatical on Orcas Island in the San Juan Islands, a female orca swam with the body of her dead calf for more than 2 weeks. The mother whale, known as Kalequa, or J35, her label given by researchers, carried the body of her baby for 17 days, preventing it from sinking, nudging it toward the surface of the water. As Darren Simon wrote of the event, when the mother whale finally let the baby go, he said, "Her tour of grief is now over." Her tour of grief is over, and her behavior is now remarkably frisky. I thought of her, whale J35, this week because we are continuing our series on what we can learn from animals. And today we explore grief. I was surprised to discover how many non-human creatures have been documented grieving, although not all scientists agree on the emotion involved. But I have learned that elephants, chimpanzees, magpies and crows, giraffes and dogs have all been observed grieving, taking the time and space to mourn what is lost. And I think in some ways, in this culture, at least, we haven't given grief the attention it needs. So I wanted to talk about it today because I sense it in the air almost, individually and collectively. And then we heard those words from the psalmist about when grief is upon us. I sense a grief in our country that is getting to us, and it isn't going away, it seems. It's a kind of grief that's more like background noise, something that lingers under the surface, often not mentioned. A grief that seems to be almost steadily gnawing at us. And because we aren't really allowed to say out loud in public, or at least we're not supposed to say all that we are grieving, I wonder if it's eating away at our softness a little bit, stealing some of our hope. In part because we haven't really let ourselves do what the whale did. We haven't fully given ourselves something like a grief tour. And I want you to know that's okay, at least here, to grieve, to have this place and this space where we can all be honest about what's breaking our hearts. Is it okay if we're honest here about our grief? I feel that people need me as a spiritual leader to be okay all the time. But I'm sure you can imagine I'm not. I understand why you need me to be without hope all the time, but I need you to know in order for me to remain authentic, I need to be able to be honest with you. And the truth is that I am grieving. And maybe you are too. I'm grieving that the world seems to be forever different. that when I looked back at the numbers 2 years ago, there were 28 kids here on a Sunday. I am grieving that some things and some people seem to be forever changed, hardened in a way. I'm grieving the trauma that continues to surround us, that we aren't doing enough collectively for the earth, that we aren't doing enough, it seems, to save our democratic republic. And I'm grieving all that I cannot fix. This summer, a clergy colleague wrote, "We are all so traumatized in this country. The earth is literally burning, rising fascism in government, democracy under threat, gun violence, mass murders, the carceral state, extrajudicial murders of Black people, criminalization of immigrants, women's rights eroded," and on the list could go. So it feels essential for me, and maybe for you too, to be able to be open about all of this, to be honest about how hard it is to be a person of conscience right now on planet Earth, to say out loud the things that are breaking our hearts, not to be forever weighed down with sadness, but the opposite. I feel like I need to be able to be open about what I'm grieving so that I can stay open, stay tenderhearted, stay true. I don't think that brokenness will make us tougher, but I do think that staying open will help hold us together, will help us go on breathing and giving thanks for one another and loving what is. As you heard from Jan Richardson, I love what she says about how we will agree together for now that we will not say that breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Perhaps for now it can be enough, she says, to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating. What if individually and collectively we need to have something like a grief tour, to name what we've lost, to let ourselves be able to love what it is that's still here? Because with all of this grief upon us and in us, with this grief that is more like background noise that lingers on, steadily gnawing away, I fear if we don't name it, and to let ourselves be honest, the grief will get us, will close us, will turn us cold and change us. If we let it, the trauma we are swimming in can turn us away from who we're called to be. Because as you may already know, grief can show up looking like inflammation of the joints. It can show up as anger, indigestion, illness, depression. Making space for all that we are holding and experiencing, scientifically speaking, is actually an antidote to the negativity bias. What if individually and collectively we need to grieve? Because maybe you noticed what the researchers said of J35. He said her grief tour is over, and then he said her behavior is remarkably frisky. After she let herself grieve, she could find some joy. Beloved of God, we can grieve alone and together, not so that we are constantly reminded of all that is sad and wrong, so that we can, in a way, let go of what is, what isn't, and what cannot be, to be present for all that is wonderful and gorgeous, the wild places and beautiful people that are here right now. It's okay for this to be a place and a space where we can be honest and open about the things that are breaking our hearts. When grief is upon you, upon me, upon any of us, what if we let ourselves be open? Maybe together it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how hearts so broken can go on beating together. May it be so. Amen. Join us now for a time of communal silence.
Greetings to you wherever you are watching this. For those of you whom I have yet to meet in person, I'm Reverend Nicola Marsh, pastor here at Community UCC. And we see that people like you are watching our live stream each week. And because of this, we are excited to be embarking upon an experiment. And we need you. If you are engaging with us regularly, finding meaning in what we are about, we would like to extend a special invitation for you to be among the first CUCC digital disciples. For signing up for just $10 a month, you will receive a t-shirt with the new CUCC logo. And we are also exploring the idea of offering other content to those of you who are part of this new and growing area of digital ministry. Sign up to support us in this new way at cuccboulder.org/support by clicking on the yellow donate tab and noting you are a digital disciple in the instructions. Or as always, we welcome an old-fashioned check mailed to us at CUCC, P.O. Box 3646, Boulder, Colorado 80307. Thank you for being and building beloved community with us, and thank you for your gift, whatever it might be.